What's up, everyone? All right, well, here we are. It's Wednesday, third day of November, and it's my first Red Day recap, and I'm feeling a little bummed out. I had such a good stretch at the beginning of the year. I think I went something like 73 or 74 consecutive green days. By July and August, I only had 3 or 4 red days on the entire year, and then things started to go the wrong way. October, I had a number of red days. I think it was 4, maybe, something like that. And here we are. It's the first week of November, and I've already got a red day. So I'm sitting in the red, and I'm feeling a little disappointed. Today was not a very easy day. That shouldn't be a surprise. Last week was fairly difficult. Monday, Tuesday weren't fantastic. Monday was good, but then things kind of fell apart as the day went on, and yesterday was very slow. So today, when I sat down, I held the discipline of not taking any trades until nearly 9:15, and then suddenly I took like 4 trades back to back to back and lost on 3 of the 4. And now I'm in the red. And I've got no chance of recovering the loss statistically based on the time of day. Because if I kept trading now, the odds are that I would just lose more. So now I really just have to do the right thing, which is have discipline and walk away. But I'm going to walk away feeling disappointment that I made this error in calculation, error in judgment that resulted in me being in the red. And I would say that I'm at max loss for today, just based on what my daily average has been for the last 2 weeks. Max loss for me is something that does sort of fluctuate in a hot market when you're routinely seeing me at 2 or 3x my hot market daily goal. I can afford to have a bigger max loss because I'm being more aggressive, I'm taking larger size, and so the swings are going to be bigger. But in this market right now, where my average winners are smaller, I can't let myself have a huge loss the way I would in a hot market. I've got to have the losses tighten up. So, well, let's jump onto the screen share and we'll start breaking it down. So we're looking first at the S&P 500, as you can see right here. The market has pulled back this week a bit. We're still sort of on this pullback right down in this area. And it feels like, we're maybe going to pull back a little bit more. But, this is kind of where we're at right now. I suppose you could say that the overall market's in a little bit of a channel here. We've sort of had this top of the channel, and then usually you draw a trend line on sort of the bottom of the channel. So it's not perfect, but, the market's sort of been in this area here for the last like 6 months or so. If we stay in that area, right through here, then okay, we hold support, we'll rally back up. But, we need to either break out or break down in order for something kind of really exciting to happen. So that's the big picture with the overall market. I guess high level, we could take a look at the Bitcoin chart. And the reason I would look at Bitcoin, for some reason I can't seem to pull up that chart. But anyways, doesn't matter. I use a different platform for looking at crypto. We don't have, there it is. We don't have cryptocurrencies inside this platform here. So we'll just pull this up right there. So here you've got Bitcoin on the top. This is just on Thinkorswim, and then the S&P on the bottom. So, and this is year to date. So they're both the exact same time frame. You can see overall markets up here. Bitcoin kind of peaked, pulled back, came back up, and then sort of, now we're sort of stair-stepping down. I look at that just because of the crypto treasury strategy catalyst that was working so well earlier in the year. I think that if Bitcoin rallies back up to new highs, that we will probably see that catalyst start working a little bit better. But for right now, with crypto and Bitcoin a little bit off the highs, I think we're going to have a hard time, even harder time with those types of headlines. So that leaves me focused a little bit more on biotech stocks. So my first trade today, LNAI. This is a biotech stock. Clear as day. It's a biotech stock with news right here. It pops up, and the two issues with it, number one, the float's a little higher at 14 million shares. That's not outrageous, but it's a little higher. And the price is a little lower. So does it perfectly meet the 5 pillars of stock selection? From a perspective of price, it does not. However, from the perspective of float, it does. But it's a little on the higher side than what I would prefer. All right, and it's worth noting, especially in a colder market, to be extra cautious with these. So this is a chart. It's not very pretty looking. I took my first entry at about $1.17. So I got in fairly early on this one, which was nice. My entry was right down here. I bought that pullback there. So it had popped up, pulled back, rallied up, dipped down, surged a little higher. And then I said, all right, I like that. I'm going to buy this pullback here. And then we got this next leg up right into there. So then we dip down, we pop up, we dip down, and we pop back up right here. Didn't trade any of that. I just had this one trade on it, which was a winner, which was great. So I had, a small winner there. However, I only filled 3,000 shares of my order. I had tried to buy 10,000 and I got only 3,000 shares filled. So that could have been a nicer trade, but unfortunately, it was not exactly what I hoped for. So then I don't trade it right here through the open, but it rallies up right here. And what are you asking for? Yeah, you can use that. So then it rallies up right here, and I end up getting in. I took a couple trades. So my first trade, or next trade on it, was right here, buying this micro pullback and looking for the breakthrough 150 up here. It hits a high of like 144 and then drops, and I stopped out down here. I was like, well, that was a bummer. And so on that, I lost, I think it was like $1,200. So now I'm red 1,200. Then it squeezes up and I'm like, well, shoot. All right. Maybe I had the right idea, the wrong timing. So I got back in right here and it goes up to here and I'm like, sweet, we broke over $1.50. So I actually added at 152. I was looking for the squeeze to 155 and 160 and it reversed immediately back to 135 and I stopped out of it a second time. So 3 trades, one small winner because I got a partial fill, and then loser number 1 and loser number 2. So 3 trades on it, 2 losers and 1 winner. Very annoying. I didn't get caught in this trap though here where it did that nasty rejection. At this point, I just gave up on it. So I ended up losing $4,103.15 on LNAI. Not great. You can see now this is my P&L on the day. Not wonderful, not good, not great, but not terrible, as they say in Chernobyl, I think it was. So that was LNAI, and then CCTG. This one pops up right at the open, and talk about a scam. This one's unbelievable. So on this one, this thing squeezes up from $1 to $1.15, $1.20, $1.30, $1.40, $1.50, $1.60. Does a micro pullback right here, and I was like, wow. Because this thing just squeezed up 70%, at that moment, it was the leading gainer in the entire market. The leading gainer right now is up only 75%. So I was like, this is a big move. Now, the issue, however, is that it's a Hong Kong company. It's a Chinese company. And I know it's playing with fire to trade them. And so where I got in on it was right here, right at this micro pullback. I bought it at $1.65 and it pops up to $1.70. And then all of a sudden the bell rang. And I didn't even realize we were that close to the opening bell. I should have been looking at the clock more carefully. So then I'm holding, and all of a sudden it drops here and it drops even more. And next thing you know, this thing comes all the way back down. It does a full round trip. So I feel like they got me again. The Chinese, WhatsApp scammers, pumping this stock up, and I bought the little pullback and then they're just dumping it. So I feel very annoyed about that, but it is what it is. So the loss on that was $900. All right. So at that point on the day, I hadn't yet lost the 4,000 on LNAI. So I was down 900 basically. I had that one winner with 3,000 shares, but it was a small win. So I was red on the day, I guess 800 or 700, whatever it was. And then right after that, I jumped into LNAI and took those 2 losses. And then I was just like, all right, this is ridiculous. I'm moving in the wrong direction today. So I've got, I think, 4 trades on the day. I've got 3 losers, 1 winner. It's awful. It's terrible. It's very annoying. And I think the only thing I can be grateful for is that at least I kept the share size moderate enough that the loss is tolerable. Right. And so this is where on a red day like today, it's really important to step back and get context, because it's very easy to get yourself really annoyed, really frustrated. Even myself, even sitting where I'm at on the year, I was gritting my teeth. I was like, this is unbelievable. Give me something that I can squeeze or that I can throw out the window, because I am annoyed. And, it's just, this is kind of the feeling of this is where I'm at right now. And so, in this type of market, you get so fixated on this little moment right here that you lose sight of the bigger picture. This is the bigger picture for me for the last 90 days. The last 90 days. Listen, we're in really good shape. Okay, the last 10 days, not so exciting. But why have such a short-term outlook? Because all that's going to do is separate you from context and get you much more upset than is necessary. So the reality here is that we are in a colder market. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I took a very unfortunate loss at the beginning of October. I don't want to do that again in November, obviously. So, after that, I had a nice little series of green days here, and then a little bit of a hiccup here towards the end of October and, now the first couple days of November. I'll tell you that it is incredible how different the market feels between hot and cold. When it's cold, it just feels unbelievably cold. Like, I can't believe it's this cold. How did I go from having 6-figure days just a couple weeks ago to this? What in the world? It feels it's night and day. And this speaks to the when we're in this type of market, how big the swings are of emotion between the hot market and the cold market. When the hot market is thriving, we're seeing incredible action, unbelievable, 700% gains, 1,000% gains, 2,000% gains. And then when it's cold, everyone's sitting on the sideline, everyone gets scared. So the emotions of fear, right, are in this moment right now today in this market are very strong. And the emotions of greed and enthusiasm during the hot market, those are very strong. So we're in a market that's bringing out big emotions both ways, hot and cold. And it's hard when it's cold like this not to get sucked into those emotions of feeling like, wow, what's going on? My 5-day average here, my 10-day average is like, feels like so insignificant compared to what I was doing 3 weeks ago. Am I going to have to give back the deposit on the new Lamborghini? Right? You're like, wait a second. I thought I was living large. Now I'm struggling to even, buy a 6-pack of bananas. This is crazy. And this is the market. These are the ups and the downs that traders have to deal with. So this right now, right here today, this is the hardest part of being a trader, getting through the cold markets. It's not fun. Look, when there's nothing on the scanner that's squeezing up over 100%, that by itself is a sign that it's cold. And I don't like trading in a cold market. I would rather it be a hot market. Would you like it to be Christmas every day? Who wouldn't? But that's not reality. Christmas comes once a year. But you know what? The hot market this year has dominated. We've been in a hot market the majority of the year. And for those of us who have been trading this whole year, we've built up a pretty big cushion. So now we've got to sit here and batten down the hatches, and we've got to be patient. And we know that it's only a matter of time before we get that one surprise move that just swing, totally catches everyone off guard and goes up, several 100%. It may end up happening in the afternoon. It may end up happening after hours. It may happen at an unusual time. That would be typical. And that's going to give a lot of traders FOMO, the fear of missing out. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed it. Finally, it's been so cold. Finally, something goes, and luck of the draw, I miss it. But I won't miss the next one. And now that stock creates the profile of what everyone is looking for, because no one wants to miss the next one. So let's say it's a biotech stock, or it's priced between X and X, or it's got a float between or it's whatever it is, whatever is sort of the profile. That's what people are looking for. And then the next one that pops up that looks remotely similar, everyone's jumping on, and there's so much enthusiasm. And so, these are the swings that we go through in the market, and you don't get to enjoy the hot market if you can't survive the cold market. So this is about survival. It's about being on defense. This is not the time to put your head, put your neck on the line and take a lot of risk. This is the time to, size down. And I am disappointed with myself today that I don't know. I'm disappointed because LNAI doesn't perfectly fit within my 5 pillars stock selection, but it was just, I had just taken that loss on CCTG. I was down 900 on it, and I was like, well, my next best shot is LNAI, and it's definitely moving higher. It's a biotech stock. It's got news. I'm going to jump on it, and then I take 2 back-to-back losses, and now I go from down 900 on the day to down 5,000. Well, that was $4,000 loss that I really didn't need to take, more or less. So no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. Errors in judgment, get frustrated, emotions come in, and this is part of the deal with being a trader. So I'm usually pretty good at self-correcting, getting back on track before things get too out of hand. And so this is where I sit today. And as always, the temptation on a day like today is to sit and wait and wait and wait, because if something does finally start to move, I don't want to miss it. DTCK was something that people were mentioning. And I said, I know it's been grinding up several days, but it's on relatively light volume. The spreads are bigger. You look at this thing on the level 2, and it's just, the volume is it's just so light on volume. I'm down $5,000. I'd have to take 10,000 shares and make 50 cents a share to get back to flat. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. And if I force it, I'm just going to dig the hole deeper. So at a certain point, you just have to let yourself off the hook and say, this isn't the day to push it. I'm logging out, and, be back at it first thing tomorrow morning. Try again Thursday, 7 a.m. Eastern. All right. So that's the plan for me. Manage your risk for those of you guys that are going to keep trading. It doesn't feel like the strong market to push it in. So manage your risk. I hope you're practicing in the simulator, and I'll see you guys back at it first thing tomorrow morning. All right. 7 a.m. bright and early. See you then.